What's up, fellas? How you doing? Thank you so much for stopping by. You are really appreciated. If it's your first time stopping by, I do not know you. You do not know me. But if you're curious enough to get to know me and the work that I do, please watch this video until the end. But so long, since you've already watched this part, you can subscribe and you can like this video. Trust you me, you'll never regret it. But besides that, you guys are really appreciated. There is an African proverb that says when the spider webs unite, they can actually tie up a lion. So we need all of us to unite by subscribing and liking for us to be able to continue doing the work that we do. Besides that, thank you so much for stopping by. You are really appreciated. Well, I just saw something actually online that I thought that I would want to share with you guys to also get your comments. But I'm going to view it for you guys and I'll make comments after.
I could give other examples. That is the one that is most present on my mind since I was just there. Mr. Secretary, I want to ask you about the program. It's the United States Refugee Assistance Program. And this is a program that state is the manager of, but together with other cabinet secretariats, DHS and HHS. State plays the lead management role. And it is how to manage the U.S. refugee assistance programs in tandem with contractors who help the United States on that. By an executive order on the first day of his presidency, President Trump paused all refugee programs and has canceled contracts to the agencies like the U.S. Catholic Church or Lutheran Refugee Services or HIAS or Church World Services who've been resettling refugees. Those programs are paused. There's litigation about it, but as far as I know, the United States is not, or the administration has not withdrawn the executive order. So there's essentially from this administration no refugee programs for anyone except. In early February, the president announced a special refugee program for Afrikaner farmers, justified A, by some concerns about South African foreign policy, but B, a claim that these were persecuted individuals. So right now, the U.S. refugee program allows a special program for Afrikaner farmers, the first group of whom arrived at Dulles Airport in Virginia not long ago, while shutting off the refugee program for everyone else. Do you think Afrikaner farmers are the most persecuted group in the world?
I think those 49 people that came certainly felt they were persecuted, and they've passed every sort of check mark that had to be checked off in terms of meeting the requirements for that. They live in a country where farms are taken and land is taken on a racial basis.
Okay. Do you think they're more persecuted than Uyghurs or Rohingyas, or more persecuted than political dissidents in Cuba or Venezuela or Nicaragua, or more persecuted than those who would be threatened should they be returned to Afghanistan by violence by the Taliban?
Well, just to stop him there, well, this is actually discussion between Marco Rubio and Mr. Kane, Tim Kaine. So this is actually discussion that they've been having, and I love how Mr. Kane actually threw it at him. Are they more persecuted than guys in Afghanistan? Are they more persecuted than guys actually in Moringa and in other parts of the world? But this is a very good, key, important thing that he actually struck out. Why will the United States of America open its borders for a possible genocide that they didn't even have any source of tangible proof that there was a genocide that was happening in South Africa? Let's get back into it.
Well, the problem we face there is the volume problem, okay? If you look at all the persecuted people of the world, it's millions of people. They can't all come here. And we had refugee programs.
So why prioritize Afrikaner farmers?
Well, because it's a small subset, it's a new issue, and the president identified it as a problem and wanted to use it as an example. But that's different from having these refugee programs that were basically spending money to put people up in communities and accommodate them, and it was acting as a magnet. Millions of people in this country illegally, and today the border is sealed.
Let me challenge you, and I'm just going to say for the public, if you want to understand about the, quote, persecution of Afrikaner farmers, go look at the composition of the South African government. Since July of 2024, there's a government of national unity, and the opposition party to the ANC, the Afrikaner Party, the Democracy Alliance, is part of the governing coalition. They joined the governing coalition a year ago, and the leader of that party was given the remit of Agriculture Minister, John Steenhuisen. He is the leader of the former Afrikaner Party, still widely representing Afrikaners. He is the Minister of Agriculture in South Africa right now. I assert that this claim that there's persecution of Afrikaner farmers is completely specious. Are you aware ever during the apartheid era in South Africa did the United States establish a special program to allow South African blacks who were treated as second-class citizens in the apartheid program, a special program so they could claim refugee status in the United States?
No, because I was probably in 9th grade or 8th grade at the time.
Yeah, well, then I don't expect you to know. I'll just tell you, never has there been a special program for Africans to come in as refugees to the United States. We've allowed special programs for people being persecuted for their religion, Soviet-era Jews. We've allowed special programs for people fleeing from communism, Cuba, Vietnam, the Soviet Union. We've never allowed a special program to allow Africans into the United States in an expedited refugee status until now. Afrikaner farmers living in a nation governed by a government of national unity that includes the main Afrikaner Party. And actually, an even more right-wing Afrikaner Party is also included in the coalition government. Now,
that's a very big question, eh? Why during the apartheid eras didn't the United States actually open up immigration programs for black people who were being persecuted by the apartheid government? Why didn't the United States do that? Well, what could be the motive behind the United States doing follow-ups of this possible genocide? What do you guys actually think that is their main objective? What do they want to achieve? Because as we all know, the meeting which was held in Washington, there wasn't any tangible proof that there was actually white Afrikaners who were being killed. The only issue that South Africa has is the high crime issue, which many farmers actually face, especially when it comes to stock theft. So what is the real possible objective of the United States of America? We'll get later into it, but let's continue.
Would you agree with me, Mr. Secretary, that if we're interpreting the statutory phrase, a well-justified fear of persecution, we should try to do that in an even-handed way?
I think we should try to do that in the interest of the national security of the United States.
So okay, I agree with you too. We should. Should we try to do it in an even-handed way? So, for example, should we say, if you're persecuted on the grounds of your religion, we'll let you in if you're a Christian, but not if you're a Muslim?
I think that the United States has a right to allow into this country and prioritize allowance of who they want to allow to come in.
But I'm going to ask you, what?
Yeah.
So a well-justified fear of persecution?
Yeah, they thought that their farms
were
were being burned down and they would be killed. I think that's a pretty good justification for wanting to come. They're afraid for their lives.
And should it be applied in an even-handed way? That's an easy.
No, our foreign policy doesn't require even-handedness. It requires prioritizing the interests of the United States.
The statutory phrase says you are entitled to entrance as a refugee if you demonstrate a well-justified fear of persecution.
No, you're not entitled.
So
you're
can
allowed.
You have a different standard based upon the color of somebody's skin? Would that be acceptable?
Well, I'm not the one arguing that. Apparently you are, because you don't like the fact that they're white, and that's why they're coming.
I'm just asking you to say that would be unacceptable.
Well, no,
that
I would say that the United States...
a very easy thing to say.
The United States has a right to pick and choose who they allow into the United States.
Even based on the color of somebody's skin.
You're the one that's talking about the color of their skin, not me. These
you're
are people whose
refusing
farms
to
were being burned down and they were
be
killed because of the
even-handed.
color of their skin.
Well,
Well, you've demonstrated enough because you think anyone should be allowed into this country for any reason because they met a certain criteria.
Who has said that?
We are going to prioritize people that come into our country on the basis of what's in the interest of this country. That's a small number of people that are coming.
But
in
you
that
said
particular
said
case.
this weekend that
but
there
in
would
other
be more.
cases, it's harder to vet. In other cases, it's more difficult. And by the way, the United States admits people every year. 1 million people come to this country every year legally. 1 million
And
people
now
a year come to this
there
country
is
legally.
one group
No
of
other
people
country in
that
the
have
world
an
is nearly as
easy
generous.
pass into this country. For the first time, this administration has said Afrikaners get an easy pass and refugee programs for the remainder of the world are shut off. And you can't say to the American public that we should apply this statute in an even-handed way.
No, I think it should be applied in a way. No, you shouldn't be shocked. It should be applied in the national interest of the United States. Our immigration policy should be based on the national interest of the United States. Period. End of story. If there is a subset of people that are easier to vet, who we have a better understanding of who they are and what they're going to do when they come here, they're going to receive preference, no doubt about it. There are a lot of sad stories around the world, millions and millions of people around the world. It's heartbreaking. We cannot assume millions and millions of people around the world. No country can. So you have to have a process of deciding who do you prioritize, who do you allow in. We do it all the time. We do it in our immigration system now under our current laws. Unfortunately, it's primarily based on family connection and not on what they're going to contribute to the society from a merit standpoint. That should be changed, but that'll require statutory changes. But the bottom line is this notion that somehow we have to accept anyone who wants to come to the United States is absurd. No country in the world has an immigration policy like that.
And no one is arguing that we should. I yield back, Mr. Chair.
So what do you guys think actually is the main motive, behind the United States of America? Well, you can put that down in the comment section. Well, I actually found this video actually online, and I'll make comments after this.
American Foreign Minister Marco Rubio. Yesterday, he was in Botswana. He had meeting with Buko, the Botswanian new president. The topic was South Africa. Topic was, listen carefully, Fox State. What is the Fox State? Fox State, it is big picture of Orania. Start from Orania to Alexandria Bay. It's basically entire Orange River. Listen carefully, Botswana. We have been warning you very long time now. We told you, shut down that American base. That American air base in Botswana need to be shut down. We have been told 1,000 times to Botswana, shut down that air base. If tomorrow America use Botswana to attack South African sovereignty, we will declare Botswanian as our enemy in African continent. This verse goes to directly Marco Rubio. Listen, Marco, as a belief, don't dare to touch our beautiful country. There will be no walk start. Genoeg is genoeg. Panzi after forum panzi. Panzi Volksstaat panzi. Panzi Orania panzi.
Well, I actually don't know who's this gentleman actually, but he mentions a lot of stuff. Well, one of the key things that I'm also thinking about right now is that we only had 49 Afrikaners that moved to the United States of America. If you remember the protest, how many white Afrikaners protested? A huge number of people. But why then is it 49 that moved to the United States of America? What happened to the remaining numbers of people who wanted to go to the United States of America for them to be able to seek asylum? Could it have been that the way President Donald Trump retaliated was in a wrong manner because maybe they wanted to have their own white country within South Africa? That could be the possibility. I'm not saying that they wanted that, but I'm just, raising some questions which are basically rhetorical questions, but you guys can actually answer them for me. Well, what do you guys actually think? What is the main reason why 49 people moved and not actually the whole entire people who were protesting?
Today, here in Southern Africa, we've got an American military base in Botswana, which threatens our security. That American base in Botswana, if they were to fly a fighter jet from that base to Union Building, it will take them 2 minutes to bomb the Union Building. Why do you allow them to have a military base in Botswana? Because no one can prepare to defend himself in 2 minutes. Once America declares a war and says we are attacking South Africa, they will do it in 2 minutes and finish the Union Building. That's why that military base in Botswana, it must be closed because it's a security threat to the whole Southern Africa, the region that belongs to African continent.
Okay, that's big, eh? Could it be that the military base that is actually established in Botswana could be a possible enemy for South Africa? Could Botswana be the possible enemy for South Africa because of that American US base which is being established right up over there to spy on South Africa? Could that be the possibility? Well, I don't really understand why also will the United States of America have military bases everywhere in Africa. Well, that's basically it, guys. I mean, just do let me know on your thoughts on this video. Other than that, you are really appreciated. God bless.